Hey, this is Heather. Thanks for tuning in. More and more companies are asking their leaders, their managers to be coaching their employees. And the studies actually show that people want coaching. They really, really like coaching leadership. In fact, there was an article in the Harvard Business Review a few years back that talked about the fact that in a study of they were evaluating 50,000 different managers in 360 reviews. There was a direct correlation between the manager's ability to coach and develop others and the higher levels of employee engagement. So what do we know about coaching? When you develop a coaching leadership style, it not only improves employee engagement, their commitment, their productivity, even retention rates, all good things happen. So you might assume if you're a great manager and if you're a great problem solver, that automatically you'd have the skills and what it takes to be a great coach, but not so fast. I want to share with you a training session that I did today with some professional coaches, right? These are employees that in their organization are tasked with coaching other employees. So as professional coaches, you would think too that their methodology would be an incredible coaching methodology. During the session, though, one of the things that we uncovered early on, one of the coaches was literally good enough to understand, have enough self-awareness to know that there were many times that she would jump directly into problem solving with her client, right, with the employee, instead of being a great coach and helping that person self-generate their solutions. So one of the things we went through as I shared my 7-step coaching model that I've developed over the last 15 plus years as a business and leadership and executive coach, we talked about the number one thing that she can do to stop herself from problem solving and actually work it through in a way where she helps her employee, her client, self-generate their solutions. So first of all, we have to really recognize that it's better when somebody comes up with their own solution, right? You have to believe that first, that when someone comes up with their solution, there's a much higher level of ownership, right? Than if you just give advice and say, here's what you ought to do, right? So if we're talking specifically about coaching leadership, here's the one area that I really asked this person to focus on. And that is, what is the mindset that you have when you walk into that coaching session? Here's the mindset that I believe that every great coach should adopt in order to get the best results out of their coachee. And that's this. I believe with all of my heart that you have your own solutions inside, right? I also know that maybe you haven't asked yourself the right questions in order to access those solutions. Like, your issue is not that you don't know your answers. I believe that you are the expert in your life, in your world, in your business, in your role. You truly are. Now, of course, this assumes that you've been in your role for some period of time, that you have that technical capability. But we're really talking about coaching someone who already understands and knows their answers within. So I believe you have your answers within. As a coach, you have to really believe that and believe it authentically, because here's the thing. If you come into that relationship and think of yourself in some way as superior or an expert, that's where you're really going to struggle. And it's okay that you are an expert. It's okay that when you're with that employee, they share their challenge and you know exactly what they need to do. You know exactly what their problem is, what their challenge is, and you see a very clear path for how to solve it. All that's perfect. That's great that you have the expertise to identify it and identify it quickly. The goal of coaching really, though, is for you to be masterful at getting them to see it for themselves, not because you've told them, but because they've figured it out. They've figured out what their challenge is. They've isolated and identified the problem very specifically, not because you've told them, but because you've asked them the right questions to help them get the clarity that they need to identify the problem or challenge. Because only in identifying that problem or challenge can they begin to come up with a solution. So I'll give another example. I just had a coaching session right before this live, And I was going through and talking with that executive about a coaching leadership model. And we talked about, what do you do when somebody comes to you and they've got this big complaint, right? They're in this place where they just are complaining, they're blaming other people. Maybe they're blaming another department within the organization because they're not getting the response time that they need. And so I brought her through the model and I started asking her questions. I said, pretend like you're that employee and it's your complaint. And when I said, okay, so you can't get the proper response time from this other department, it's really frustrating. So what do you do? She said, I don't know. She said, I've tried everything. So rather than take that answer, I already, because of our conversation, saw a possible solution for her, but I didn't offer up that solution. I kept up with the inquiry because I truly believe that the answer resided within her, that she could problem solve that. She just wasn't asking herself the right questions. So I continued to ask questions from all different angles, and she was a tough nut to crack. But I finally got her to really recognize what she had already given me, right? You can't do it alone, and they're not doing it on their own. So she really recognized she needed to collaborate with this other department. So what's really interesting is even when you take the coaching approach, if you're an awesome problem solver, it's going to be way harder for you than if you're not an awesome problem solver, because it's so tempting to want to give that answer and give that advice and give that solution. And it feels good when you can give advice and give that solution because you see it so clearly. But just know that even if you're an awesome problem solver, it's so much more beneficial to the other person if you can be patient and if you can take the time. I mean, make it a game. Can you ask the questions in such a way that they come up with the solution for themselves? Because when you do that, they have an internal power that they have self-generated that no one else can give them, right? It's so empowering when you believe in someone so much that they have the answers for themselves, and you don't give up when they tell you that they don't know the first time or maybe even the second time. And you just keep coming at it from different angles. And then they realize that they get the solution finally. They feel a completely different level of confidence. They feel a different level of worthiness, right? Of expertise, of all of it. And the more that happens, the more they start to believe in themselves that they can come up with these solutions. And eventually, if you're a good enough coach, they'll start asking themselves those questions and they will start to self-generate solutions even without you. So that actually becomes super beneficial because then they won't need you as much. And then you can go and work with other people. So that was a little bit about the coaching session that I had today with some of our clients. And if you find this valuable, please share it. If you know somebody else who wants to hear it. If you're not already connected with us, please do so either here on LinkedIn or you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see some of the other Evolve to Win episodes. So thanks for tuning in. Have an awesome day.